Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another motivating through the Bible, awesome, exciting message. This one's going to be about, let me open it with a story. Let me open it with an exciting, awesome story. There's a young man who wakes up in the morning and his parents tell him, hey, you should dress that way for a job interview. Don't wear the rip-off shirt. And then his dad says, hey, don't get that tattoo. It looks pretty bad. And as he's driving to prom, he sees a car dealership. His buddy says, man, you should buy that Corvette. It looks like a good deal. And then someone says to him, hey, man, I got some advice on dating for you. And then later that day he goes into work and he's like, hey, man, you're cutting the fence right on. I got some advice for you. And then he goes over here and gets some advice there. And then he turns on YouTube and he gets some advice there. And then he turns on Fox News and he gets advice there. And then he turns on fake news CNN and he gets some advice there. And then someone else gives him some advice. And then some more advice. And then at the end of the day, he's like, you know what? I'm on advice overload. If I could title this video anything, it would be Advice Overload. How many YouTube videos have I put up? I think it's around 900 or so. How to play guitar. All these different things, right? And then how many of them are there? Billions. How many people are there in the world? Over a billion. How many people got YouTube? Billions, right? So you get the point. Sometime you're at work and you go to this guy and he tells you how to do it. You go to that guy, he tells you how to do it. You go to this guy, he's good. And you know what? I had someone tell me at work the other day, I'm adviced out. I don't want any more advice today. I just can't take it. And then 5 minutes later, he's giving me advice on something. So advice is a normal thing of life, but I'm going to go over with you advice on advice, because there's different kinds of advice. And I really hope, whether you're a young man, an old man, young woman, young man, young child, old child, whoever you are out there, this is going to help you a lot. And hopefully you can get some enjoyment out of it. Because a wise teacher makes learning fun. So how fun can we make this? Well, it's nothing funner than writing a paper. I went to college. There's advice on how to write a paper. You'll get it when you're younger, you'll get advice, hey, write me an essay. Okay, sign your name at the top and the date. That's all you got to do in elementary school. You get to intermediate school, hey, I want you to check your spelling. You get to high school, they're like, hey, give me an intro, a body, and a paragraph. Then you get to college, they want intro, body, paragraph, and some sources. Then you get your bachelor's degree, and it's intro, body, sources, and I want sources on your sources. And I want an abstract, and you can only use valid scientific sources. Then you go for your master's degree, okay? And that pretty much, I had to write a paper. I had to do sources. I had to do an introduction, a body, a conclusion, but I had to cite my sources, and I had to use a whole different kind of sources. I had done APA, my whole bachelor's degree, and now they say do Trabian for this one course. And it about killed me, man, because how many ways can you say this is the book I used for this information? But it's always good. I'm going to give you some advice on YouTube videos, and I'll give you teachers and preachers advice. I'm not a $1 million ministry. This isn't even a real Rolex. This is a real shirt and tie. But I can give you some advice. Here's what they teach you in public speaking. Always start with something funny. You need to have a theme, a purpose. So have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And your introduction should point out what the message is about. This message is about advice. Your body should be what it is about that. And then your conclusion should wrap up and reiterate your introduction or your thesis. So right there's some free college advice for everybody getting ready to go to school. Get ready to do your body, introduction, conclusion. So without any further ado, let's talk about wisdom. Let's talk about advice. What is advice? Advice is knowledge someone is giving you. If you've never started a chainsaw before, you might want to ask someone how to do it. If you've never used a chainsaw, you might want to get someone to explain you how to do it. If you've never driven a car, down a freeway, 80 miles an hour, or with all the other cars going 89. You might want to get somebody how to do it. So what we're going to do is, it's advice. I have my story on advice. You can have enough advice. Is there such a thing as too much advice? The different types of advice. I have misleading advice. I also have foolish advice. And then the last type of advice we're going to go over, well, not the last, but I have loving advice. I have advice from nature. Then I have my conclusion. All right. Let's go into, right now, the first type of advice. I'm going to call this misleading advice. Believe it or not, in this awesome, honest, wonderful world we live in, you're going to get misleading advice. In the military, people, the young cadets and young recruits, when they first get to a base, we sit down and we get advice. And they tell us, you cannot buy a car from over there, and you can't buy the unlimited film. And that bar is off limits. Why? Because people have gone there over the years, and they've gotten ripped off on the car deal. They've bought the camera with unlimited lifetime film. It was a ripoff. Now suddenly they only get paid X amount of dollars, but 99% of that's going there, and they got problems. Or that bar's off limits. I went to one place, and before we got off the ship, they said, that's off limits. That bar, that drink's off limits. Why? Because so many service members maybe went there, drank it, got inebriated, threw up, and couldn't perform their duties. So believe it or not, there's misleading advice. I'm not going to say every car dealer is misleading you. Right, here's my car dealership outfit. I wore a nice shirt, a tie, and a nice watch. Now the watch, I didn't want a watch like this. I thought it looked too glamorous. I wanted to look like the people. My buddy's like, you can't sell cars with a watch like that. Get this watch on. Little shout out to you, my old car salesman friend, if you're still watching. But I saw so many things, of course. Tricks. There was a car that didn't exist. It was for $18,000, and they put that car in the paper, and people like a Sonata for $18,000. They would rush up to the car dealership. I'm here to buy it, and I'd be like, all right, great, I'll show it to you. I'd go to my manager, hey, I want to test drive her in the $18,000 Sonata, and they're normally $25,000, $26,000, $27,000. Bill, that car doesn't exist. It's locked up in the back. Show her this other car. I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't go out and mislead this person. My heart's like, really? That's the tactic you're using? So be careful. So people are out there to mislead you. Have misleading advice. Advice to trap you. You ready? Advice to trap you. In this country, it's somewhat illegal to record someone and lead them into a conversation which will lead to their arrest. That is called entrapment. I'm not a lawyer, so don't get legal advice from this channel. But the Pharisees knew all of the Judaic laws very well. They figured, this Jesus guy, we got to kill him. How can we kill him? If we can get him to say something wrong, people will turn against him. A little bit of intrigue, a little bit of sleuth, a little bit of stealth mode on this Jesus guy. I know what we'll do. We'll get the Roman government to turn against Jesus. How can we do that? I know how. We'll ask him about taxes, because you got to pay your taxes to Caesar. He'll cut your head off. He'll arrest you, throw you in jail. We got Jesus on this one. Hey, Jesus, watch how they talk to him. It's called patronization. Jesus, you're a wonderful teacher. Jesus, we know you keep the law. We know about you. We know no one can do the things you do except God was with him. You're so good. Hey, we got a question. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Jesus, it says in the Bible, knowing their hearts that they're trying to trick him, said, give me one of the coins. Give me a coin. You got a coin? And bring out a coin. This one's a penny with Abe Lincoln on it. But let's pretend it was, Caesar. He says, whose inscription is this on it? Well, that's Caesar. Well, why don't you give to Caesar what's Caesar's and give to God what's God's? And they're like, mind blown, they couldn't trap him anymore. But just know there's people there trying to trap you. I don't want you to live your life 110% paranoid. Everything I say is going to be used in a court of law against me. Oh my God, they're watching me 24/7. But don't be gullible. Every bit of advice you get, especially from TV commercials. This is the best thing. This watch is going to be on sale for $19.95, and it's only available for another 5 minutes. But if you buy now, we'll send you 1 more plastic jug. And if you get that plastic jug, I can send you 2 more plastic jugs. And if you send $999 today, credit card, MasterCard, Visa, void where prohibited. Thank you. Bye, 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 bye. You ever seen that one before? Yeah. I'm not saying all their products are misleading, but might be a trap, okay? So, the old car salesman might lead you. The Pharisee, they might try to trap your words or lead you to sin. Some things are, like that bar where they said, don't go there, it's bad. Some things are just trying to lead you into sin. There's actually literally women out there who are like, I'm going to go get myself a man. I don't care if he's married or not. I'm going to get a man. That guy's got a good car, a good house. I'm going to go lay some sugar on him, and he going to take care of me. He got married, he got kids. I don't care. I'm going to move up in on that. And she looks beautiful. She looks hot. She's dressed herself up. She's got her perfume on, her clothes just right. Hey, why don't you go on a date with me? Hey. And here's the married guy. She's trying to track him. Her advice and I've seen it before, why don't you leave your wife and kids and go with that hot chick? Are you kidding me? I love my wife and kids and family. I'm not going to throw away a solid family for a night of sin, okay? I think I beat that point into the ground. Let's go for some foolish advice. There's just some fools out there. Now, you older people watching this video, you've probably seen a couple tricks. Hey, I know how to fix your car. I know how to. I'll take that gas tank out and put you a tin pan under there. Now what you want to do is drive as fast as you can. Don't you obey them speed limit signs, boy. People that talk like that aren't idiots. Don't judge someone by their accent. But I'm trying to. The fool. Enough said. There's some foolish advice. If you get around certain people at your job, you're going to have your wise people. Don't be too wise and too foolish, but you're going to have your outright fools. Hey, man, if we just lie all day and say we're here, but we're not, or, man, let's, and I mean, there's things that are funny, but it's stupid. Now, I'm not talking about funny joking. I'm talking about stupid, foolish advice. Someone who's never used a chainsaw in their life is going to tell you how to operate one at the top of a tree. And usually foolish advice, you can do it. The Bible says the foolish advice is lie in wait for blood, murder the innocent, be loud, be clamorous, commit adultery, don't fear God, don't follow the rules. That's all foolishness. Someone who just doesn't know, but they tell you anyways. They may advise you to drink heavily. You've had enough to drink. You had your 2. You did good. You had the company meeting or the family dinner. But they're like, no, you need to have some shots of vodka with us. Get in the Corvette. Let's drive up. Let's go do some more crazy stuff. They might advise you to go into debt unnecessarily. If you can pay your bills, don't take out exorbitant loans with high interest rates. A lot of advice in this video, huh? But okay, that's a type of advice. There's foolish advice. There's advice to overspend. Your budget, you make $500 a week. Someone said, man, you need to spend $700 a week. It doesn't work. Now let's go to, I'm going to change up the order of my paper a little bit here. Let's get some advices from nature. You look at nature, they looked at sharks and how their aerodynamics are, so they designed jet airplanes like sharks because they can go through the water. Wow, look at that design. Look at our hands, how they do that. They're still trying to make robots that can reach out and grab with appendages like ours. Probably one of the most common is the advice to not be lazy. Well, give me a nature example on not being lazy. Look at that ant. If you busted open an ant burrow in the middle of winter, it would have a bunch of eggs, a bunch of food, a bunch of everything. Why? Because they're walking around constantly working. They're constantly working. So you can look at nature and get some advice from nature. And nature is going to, not 100% accurate, but it's going to advise you. Certain things you can learn from nature. From your parents. Number one, your parents Most parents love their kids. The Bible says honor your father and mother. So the advice they're going to give you is awesome. It's going to be good. If they see you running with a crowd that's going to drag you down, lead you to shoot heroin, snort cocaine, overspend, fall into sexual sin, a loving parent's going to say, I really advise you not to do that. And then in some things you might not see clearly, but they might be like, don't rent in that neighborhood. Don't buy that car. I advised someone once, my stepson said, I'm getting this guitar, man. It's only $10 online. I said, don't ever buy a guitar until you've at least played it or you know the brand real well. He paid his $10. I think he played it once. Why? No intonation. You play it and it's completely out of tune. It will never go in tune. Never. So, advice from your parents and step-parents. Advice from the Bible. This book here, it's called the Life Application Bible. This isn't a plug for this, but it is a good Bible. And people wonder, man, why do you read the Bible? Why? You a Bible thumper? Well, it's not an inside, there's no secret inside information here, but I will say that the people that read it enriches and improves their lives. There's a whole 2 books, probably more, all of it's advice, but there's 2 books that focus just on advice, Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Proverbs is kind of bright and cheerful. Ecclesiastes will tell you a little bit more about the darker parts of life. But you can get solid advice here, and you think, man, why? How can someone living 10,000 years ago know anything about today? Well, one of my favorite stories, or actual truths in the Bible, is about Samson. What can we learn from his story? We can learn that he should have stayed with the advice of his parents. He shouldn't have trusted Delilah. So the pretty girl that he wanted to marry against his family's wishes led to his imminent destruction and death. Obviously, that's an ocean I'm going to allow you to sail your ship into on yourself. The Bible. The advice is amazing. So let's go ahead and reiterate. Advice overload, 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 overload. You got a lot of advice out there. Watch out, because you're going to get foolish advice, too much advice, loving good advice from your father. You're going to get good advice from them. What is some of that loving advice from your parents? That's good advice, all right? In conclusion, I can reiterate the types of advice. We have foolish advice. We have too much advice. But the Bible, is there such a thing as too much wisdom? Is there such a thing as too much knowledge? Solomon said, the reading of many books can make you wearisome to the flesh. This is just a book about the letters in the Bible, the different languages, Hebrew and Greek. And if you could look behind you, let's do a little bit of it. Look at this. The books don't end. The books don't end. The books don't end. Okay? The books don't end. Knowledge is exhaustive. It's exhaustive. It's 100% exhaustive. There's more books over here, more books over there, so many books. One time I had someone tell me, every time you get a new book, you got to throw away an old one. You can't tell a teacher or a knowledge connoisseur or something like that. Let's end this in a great conclusion. Why advice? So you don't make the same mistakes you used to make. Get advice. You want advice on how to have a successful business? Get advice from someone who's already done it. Value their advice. How much does it cost to go see a lawyer? $60, $70, $100 an hour? Why? Because he's giving you advice to stay out of jail. Advice to organize your business. They pay advisors millions of dollars. Where should we put our business in this country? You got military advisors. Where's the best place to put our troops? What's the best tank we should build? You got advice on marriage. Boy, some people pay $50 an hour to save that marriage. So get good advice. And this channel, it's got good advice. I'm not going to boast on myself. I get my advice from the Bible and life circumstances. I hope you enjoyed this word for the day, and I hope this advice helped you. If you're in advice overload, weed out the foolish advice and keep the good advice. Thanks for tuning in.